Really privileged to have on this week on the Front Stretch podcast, reigning Xfinity Series champ and Daytona Xfinity winner, Austin Cindric. I think I would be remiss if I didn't start with asking, is beef still what's for dinner?
Beef is definitely what's for dinner. We got all the beef on Saturday night, so that was pretty cool. They had a whole cooler full of tomahawk steaks, and those guys are going to hook us up. So that was
Yeah.
pretty cool. Obviously, great to win the first race of the year and check off a box, winning a race on a super speedway. So pretty special. Great way to start the year.
How many times have you had beef since you won?
I had steak and shake for dinner the
Good.
night after. I figured that was the right thing to do.
It's appropriate.
Um, it was very appropriate. They gave me a belt buckle and a cowboy hat and a trophy. I wore the belt buckle into the Cup garage the next morning. So definitely trying to embrace it as much as possible.
I was going to ask about that cowboy hat under your regular hat look, because I asked you about it post race as well. You've done it twice. I mean, it's worked both times. Why change it?
I guess I got to have more races with cowboy hats because we
Yeah.
keep we keep winning them. So it's good stuff, man. It's pretty cool, especially when you get a race sponsor and engaged like that. So definitely fun stuff, and hopefully we can keep going.
Probably one of the weirdest 24-hour stretches for you personally and professionally. You go from winning the Xfinity race, accomplishing history there for yourself, which we'll get to, and Team Penske as well, to strapping in for the Great American Race, the biggest race probably of your entire life. And that all happened in less than a day span, or I guess more than a day when you factor in the rain delay. Just that day as a whole, I mean, little Austin probably had to be pinching himself seeing what he was doing.
Yeah, I mean it's I had to switch my mind off in a lot of different ways. After the Xfinity race, I wanted to enjoy it as much as possible
Mm,
because that's a big deal. I mean, those tracks are pretty hard to win on, and that experience, obviously starting off the year that well, and the hard work in the off season for the team really paying off. So I'm very proud of that. I thought I took advantage of that and enjoyed it as much as I could. And by the time I did that, went over and saw all the big wigs from the team, across the street, and it was 11:45. I still hadn't had dinner. I still needed to prepare for the Daytona
yeah.
500. I needed to hydrate. I needed to sleep. I needed to wake up early in the morning. So I had to shut my phone off because I mean, I had so many text messages and so many nice notes. I'm still not done getting to them. So because the 500 added more.
Yeah.
But then from there, I mean, just trying to prepare as much as possible. In some ways, the rain delay was nice because I got to take a good 2 hour nap and
Nice.
and get prepared for obviously like you said, a really important event for me.
So your wonderful PR representative Jess actually told me about this impressive stat that you now have. I think you're the only driver to win a race at Daytona on the super speedway, on the road course, and in rallycross. I think you're the only one because I don't really know a lot of people that have had success in all those different disciplines. You're a jack of all trades, Austin.
Yeah, it's a very cool stat, and it's something that I'm very proud of because my racing career has taken me in a lot of different directions and a lot of different types of race cars, and obviously I've gotten to do a lot of that in Daytona.
Yep.
It's obviously a very versatile facility, but it's cool to be able to showcase that because I feel like that is what has been setting me apart in my career. I've had great opportunities to do those things and obviously take advantage of them.
So I mentioned those different disciplines. Those are really important. Not a lot of people take advantage by going to Scandinavian countries and racing on ice, but you do. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and getting really, really cold while also warming up with a race car?
Yeah, a couple years ago, I went up to Sweden. They've got an ice racing series they do with rallycross, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, it was in the same car that I would have driven at Daytona, same
Mm-hmm.
type of car, just obviously on a frozen surface with spiked tires in the middle of winter. I mean, we were closer to the North Pole than we were to continental Europe. So
Man,
that was definitely cold for me. Living in North Carolina, we don't get much colder than 20 degrees during the
yeah,
winter. So I was like below 40. So definitely an interesting experience. I had fun. I mean, I had pace out there, and I really enjoyed it. I won one of my heat races, but
nice.
I did learn that snowbanks are a lot harder than they look. They're not
Hmm.
very soft. So definitely a lesson there. But yeah, really cool experience. I'd love to definitely do some of that again.
Was it actually negative 40 degrees?
It was cold. It was really cold, and like the time that the sun was out was so small. Like the sun
Yeah.
would come up at like in the morning and set at like 4 in the
Yeah,
afternoon.
it's
Or
ridiculous.
I mean, it's like you have that much daylight, so you're working on the car and doing all this other stuff while it's still dark out. So
That's
I
wild.
mean, it's really cold. Sun makes things warmer, and when you don't have it, it's really cold.
Well, I would imagine that the snowbanks are pretty much like concrete because when it's that cold, there's no sunlight to melt it or soften it even a little bit. I mean, that is literally just like a concrete wall probably when you're hitting it.
Yeah, I mean it's narrow. It's hard to go too wide on some of those
Yeah,
racetracks.
for
So
sure.
the way you pass people is getting a nose in there and pretty much just shoving them into a snowbank. With being the only American guy there, I got shoved into a snowbank quite a few times. So it was like I said, it was a great experience. I also learned there's a strategy on what color your car needs to be because when you're behind somebody in the ice and the snow, obviously you kick up a lot of snow and ice rooster tails, and it's really hard to see. Well, all these guys, they all had fair, pretty much white cars, and
Hmm.
they were really hard to see behind.
Yeah.
So you had no idea where you were going. Well, I had a bright red car, and everyone could see really well behind me. So definitely a strategy to having a white car if you're racing on ice.
Probably not too great that A, you were an American, so you were gonna get hazed with the foreigners, and then B, everybody knew where you were, clear as day, even in the nighttime.
Got the target on me.
You got not a lot of nice stuff in the background there. Is any of that from what you did in Sweden, or is this all Americanized racing paraphernalia?
Yeah, so I mean, over in the corner over here is some of the rallycross stuff, but
Okay,
a lot of I need more shelves. That's a good problem to
it's a good
have.
problem to
I've
have. Yes.
after last year, so we'll keep going. That's like I said, a great problem to have. A lot of different stuff between. I mean, on that side, it's more sports cars and open wheel, and
Yeah.
but anyway, definitely try and keep on adding to it.
Jess also told me that you are the first defending champion in the Xfinity Series to win the season opener at Daytona since big old Randy LaJoy did it in 1996-97. And I'm going to quiz you. Do you know what he did in the year following trying to defend his title? Do you happen to know?
I do not. You're gonna
He
have to
won the
educate.
title again.
Okay, well, let's do it. It's
You're off to a
good
good
stuff.
start, man. So, why was winning on a super speedway for you really important this season? Because you mentioned that in the post race presser, and you kind of touched on it in the sense of people labeled you last year as this guy that can only win on road courses. You dispelled that myth pretty darn quickly, and you did it again this year, accomplishing one of your main goals, winning on a super speedway. Can you tell us why that was important to you personally?
Yeah, other than the fact that the biggest race at NASCAR is super speedway racing, it's Daytona 500. Obviously,
Hmm.
I got to be part of that this weekend, and it's the last type of racetrack that I haven't won on in NASCAR. And I mean, we've talked about just now like the versatility in my career and the pride that I take in that. And the cool thing about NASCAR racing is that we've got all these different types of racetracks, and to use some of that experience as far as being versatile and apply it and be successful at it is something like I said I take a lot of pride in. And
Yeah.
the last step for me and kind of checking all those boxes was a super speedway, and that was kind of an extracurricular goal for me this season. Obviously focuses on playoffs and the final four, but past that it was really cool to get that done early.
And this is your first start in the Daytona 500, the Great American Race. Nothing like it. I wish for you that you could have experienced it with all the fanfare and a full grandstands there, because I'm sure the vibes would have felt a little bit different and a little bit bigger. But with that being said, I mean, there's still 30,000 people there. It's still the freaking Daytona 500. You're still in the race. So what were the vibes like? Could you tell that this was a bigger deal?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, I've watched the race. I've been to the 500 in person and as a fan, and to be part of it was really cool. Obviously,
Yeah.
making the race was a big challenge for us heading into the weekend. So I definitely felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulders at that point. And after that, we had a 1 in 40 shot of winning the Great American Race. And after lap 15, we had about a 1 in 25 shot. So it was a great experience for me. And obviously, it was cool to lead some laps and be able to be a factor a lot of the race. So I'm looking forward to the next opportunity like that. It was a great taste of racing in the Cup Series. Obviously, it's a different discipline than most of the
Mhm.
races in the. But yeah, excited for what's next.
Yeah, not a lot of people can say that they've led a lap in their first start in Cup, so it's an exclusive club to be a part of. Could you tell the difference with the competition around you in the Cup Series compared to Xfinity, or being that it was Daytona and the nature of this race specifically, it was a lot of riding around. Was it kind of hard to tell?
No, I mean, I think the first laps I had in the duels, you could tell
Hmm.
there's a difference. I mean, you'd expect there to be, right. I mean, these guys are they're 20 to 25 of the best drivers in the sport, in some really great equipment. So the decision making and the way the race plays out and in some ways the predictability of what's going on around you, you can trust those guys a lot more because
Yeah.
you know that they're going to do it perfect, and it's about who can be the best, not just who's doing it right. So there's a difference, but at the same time, and there's a lot of great drivers in the Xfinity Series, especially this year. So I feel like it's not a difference of you know who's better. It's just there's such a large pool of great drivers in that series. So it makes it fun. It makes you want to step your game up as a competitor, and it makes me excited for the next race.
I got to bring up the picture you tweeted. I think at this point, probably a few hours ago, of you and Kaz. That made me that made me chuckle. I'm still chuckling now. I mean, I didn't know that that's how you looked when you were a young kid. You tried to recreate it and you didn't really like know what to do, so you looked a little bit like meaner and like muggier now than you did back then. But I mean, those are some pretty rosy cheeks, I got to say. I have rosacea, so I understand. But I mean, that was something else. I got to say that gave me a chuckle. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. No, it's cool. I mean, it's especially cool that Kaz and I have been able to move up through the ranks in
Yeah.
NASCAR. Obviously, started our first Daytona 500 together. We were teammates when we both started racing in Bandoleros.
Hmm.
So obviously, we go a long ways back. So that was special, obviously, for a lot of different reasons for both of us. And like I said, I tried to recreate it. I didn't quite nail it. I definitely thought I remembered myself looking more casual in the photo than
Yeah.
Kaz. He's very upright. He's got his hands on his hips. He's
Yep.
smiling in the photo, and I'm kind of just like hanging out, ready to go. But, no, it doesn't seem like that long ago, which is the crazy thing. So I'm very fortunate to be here, and obviously want to do my best to try and stay here.
Well, that was for the last row of the 500. So in the coming years, when you guys inevitably qualify in the front row, you can recreate it for a third time. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
Cool. I want to ask about something. Kaz was on fire in the 500. You weren't necessarily on fire, but you had that last lap crash, which involved a lot of fire. And you were telling a group of media earlier today that crash actually had like a pretty big ish impact on you and your car specifically. But you're feeling all good now. You're getting some PT.
Yeah, no, I'm all good. Just stiff, pretty big impact.
Yeah.
Obviously, not much time to slow down. And the fire is probably a little separate. The fire is more of a distraction when I'm in the car. But
Hmm.
yeah, they make safe cars, and I'm lucky to get to drive them. So no worries there. But I tweeted out. I mean, fire's hot. I mean, I wasn't trying to be smart. Like
Breaking news.
it's powerful stuff, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to describe the not the effect that it has, but um, you know how real it is. So that was I wouldn't say it was a game changer for me, but definitely gave me some perspective
Hmm.
on things I've watched as a kid and never gotten to experience.
Yeah, it could be jarring for sure, but glad you're all right with that. I'll close with asking about the season as a whole, Austin, because you have a few more Cup Series races on your schedule. You obviously are going for back-to-back titles in the Xfinity Series, trying to do something that Tyler Reddick did a couple of years back as well. You're already the champion of the series, so what do you want to learn this year? What do you want to accomplish this year? Because on paper, people may say you're Cup ready. You've already accomplished and done all that you needed to do, but I'm sure internally you have a little bit more different goals set in mind.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we can't stray too far away from the challenges that making it to the Final Four and being competitive in the playoffs
Hmm.
are. I mean, like I said before, it's a very competitive series. There's very competitive drivers and with very competitive cars. So we got to continually step up our game. But as far as my goals outside of that for this year, um, I think they'll change as I get more perspective on what it means to race in the Cup Series, and
Hmm.
and I would say that schedule is probably going to be more front loaded than back loaded, obviously because of the playoffs and
Right.
and focus towards the Xfinity Series. But I think the more I learn about what my strengths and weaknesses are on Sundays, I can try and apply that to Saturdays and make myself better in an environment that I probably know more about and that has more constant values. So I'm excited to learn those things. I'm open minded to what I can improve on, and And obviously there's some racetracks that I felt like we had really great shots of winning at last year that we came up short where for whatever reason. So there's definitely a fire burning for some of those places, whether it be Bristol or Pocono or Atlanta or Indy or wherever else that we feel like we should have won last year. I'm excited to go back and give it another swing.
Hopefully you can get some cowboy hats along the way too, because those seem to jive with you. Well, Austin, this has been fun, man. Thanks for taking some time. I appreciate it. Congrats on the victory at Daytona. Congrats on a great run at Daytona. Thank God you're safe. Everything's all good there. And I'm sure we'll be talking to you soon down the road, hopefully in Victory Lane.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Thank you.